everybody. It is my honor to open the workshop Enhancing Water Security in Vietnam, Challenges and Strategies with the Italian Agency for Development Cooperation Office in Hanoi. The motto of this year is water for shared prosperity. And I think there could be nothing. Water is not only essential to the agenda for sustainable development. Italy, as a crucial partner of Vietnam since 1990s, has implemented several initiatives in the country on water, sanitation, hygiene, and integrated water resources management in partnership with the Vietnamese government and the local provinces. Nowadays, new challenges are arising due to the fast and rapid socio-economic growth of Vietnam and the impacts of climate change on water security, particularly with regard to water availability for irrigation and drinking, water resources management, and also wastewater treatment and pollution mitigation. I want to express my sincere thanks to Dr. Tu Yan, head of the Development Cooperation Board from the Department of Water Resources Management of the Ministry of Natural Resources and Environment of Vietnam, for joining us today from Hanoi. Thank you very much. She has an extensive expertise and experience in the sector, and therefore she will greatly enrich today's discussions. The technical team of AICS Hanoi will bring to your attention the lessons learned and the innovative tools adopted in our initiatives by insights of Vietnam's strategic journey towards water security. So thank you very much for your attention and for being with us today. I give the floor to Luca Sartorelli, Wash and Health Coordinator at AICS Hanoi, who will moderate the workshop today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Anna Maria, our Director of AICS Hanoi and also Director of the HR unit of AICS Rome. Selamat pagi, everyone. And the workshop on enhancing water security in Vietnam, challenges and strategies is officially open. I also want to briefly thank the government of the Republic of Indonesia for hosting the forum this year. And I would like to thank also AICS Rome for organizing this beautiful pavilion. So I am Luca, I'm part of the WASH team of AICS Hanoi, and today I will play a very ancillary role. I just introduced briefly the workshop. I will moderate it, and I will try to wrap up after the presentations. So, okay, theoretically, Vietnam has a very advantageous situation in terms of water security because there is an extensive network of rivers and streams. The topography is very favorable and a very good rainfall partners. But today we will learn that the situation is not that easy and is actually much more complex than what it seems. So Vietnam, I guess, represents a very special case in Asia because it's a country that from a very poor and isolated situation after the war, in just 40 years became one of the most prominent economies in the area. So I was saying, okay, Vietnam is a very peculiar situation because from a very bad situation in just 40 years with a series of reforms, mostly agriculture, called Toi Moi, and a very strong focus on agriculture and cheap technology exports, became a very prominent economy, a cost for its people, for its thousands. The purpose of this workshop today is to give some insight in the strategic journey in towards water security. In terms of, I see some movement, so we are back on.
I can hear you, but very, very badly. I cannot hear continuously.
The workshop will give, first of all, I guess, the doctor from the Department of Water Resources Management of the Ministry of the Natural Resources and Environment, which is connected remotely from Hanoi. Our next panelists will be Dr. Dung, water engineer and liaison officer of the AICS Hanoi, and Dr. Daniel Vitalis, our water specialist, also from AICS Hanoi. After the presentations, I will grab the mic again and I will try to wrap up and give space for some questions, comments, share notes. Okay, we're back. So no more than 10 minutes each. And so there will be, as I say, space for questions. So on this purpose, I would like the audience to write your questions in the chat box down below. Of course, if there are some questions from the public, they can just ask me to get the mic and for their questions live after the presentations. So without further ado, I would like to introduce our first guest, which is Dr. Thuy Anh from the Ministry of Natural Resources and Environment. I guess the presence of Dr. Thuy Anh represents a clear sign of strong collaboration between Vietnam and Italy. The topic of the presentation is the current status of the Vietnam laws and reforms. I guess she will give innovations in the legal framework and how the new reforms try to tackle water security. A round of applause for Dr. Thuy Anh, our first speaker. Thank you very much.
Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for having me here today for our online virtually workshop during the World Water Forum in Bali. So can you hear from me? Okay, good. So with my presentations, may I kindly ask Mr. Dũng can help to share my presentation? Thank you. So thanks everyone. Thank you, Miss Anna Maria, Mr. Luca, Mr. Daniele, and other colleagues, Mr. Dũng as well. So my presentations, I would like to give a brief presentation on enhancing water security, challenges and strategy. I am Thuy Anh from the Department of Water Resources Management, Ministry of Natural Resources, Natural and Environment. So let's go to the country profile very quick. The presentation, my presentation, I will focus firstly about the short introductions about profile, some challenges that Vietnam have been facing, and I will share with you some governance reform, cooperation Vietnam and Italy in some sectors. I heard some background noise. Okay, thanks a lot. So many of you already so familiar with Vietnam, so I will give this one just briefly. As you know, Vietnam has more than 3,000 rivers and streams with a length of 10 kilometers or more, and the total annual runoff is around more than 800 billion cubic meter, but the water shortage is still, the dry season is pretty long with from 6 to 7 months, when the runoff is only accounts for 15 to 13% of this total. So that the increasing climate change impacts and the escalating exploitation of water resources by upstream countries and for rising water demands for socio-economic development activities have led to such serious water-related issues such as water pollution or severe droughts and floods. As you can see from the graph, more than 50% of river basins are already and will suffer from water shortage by 2030, and the situation is predicted to get worse over the year. So the major challenging you can see it's can go for social challenges, economic challenges, ecological challenges, and institutional challenges. With the social, we can see the rapid increase of populations by 40% only from 1990 to 2015. So it led to a greater demand for and pressure on water resources and related infrastructure. With economic challenging, Vietnam have a good annual growth of around 6% from 2012 to 2021. So it led to structure of Vietnam's economy has been fundamentally reshaped, and the conflict of water use in different sectors are rising. And we also can talk about the ecological changes and institution. A lot of ministries and governmental organizations manage different aspects of water. I will share more in the next slides. And together with that, next slide, please. And together with that, we have a lot of challenges related to transboundary water resources. 7 over 13 major river basins in Vietnam are transboundary, and Vietnam is very water dependent with more than 63% of the total water resources generated outside of the country. So then it's highly susceptible to adverse the outcome arising from any water impacting activities occurring in its upstream countries. So from Vietnam side, next slide, please. And the water-related risk can cause many serious impacts to the environment and also to the economic as well. As you can see from the graph, if the combined threats related to water resources can cause around 4.3 GDP reduction each year, and if no actions can be taken by 2035, the GDP of Vietnam will be reduced by 3%. And you can see the sector that's affected the most by water resources and water security is agriculture. Next, please. And in Vietnam, as I mentioned, there are some overlapping and conflict between different ministry on managing water resources. So MONRE and the Department of Water Resources Management will in charge of overall management of water resources, considering from source to sea. But then different sectors, other ministry will manage different aspect of water. For example, the Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development will in charge of water for agricultural productions, for water for crops and things, and MOC, the Ministry of Construction, will in charge of water supply, and especially urban. But then in rural area, MART will in charge of water supply for rural area, and others ministry as well. And I will give you some brief update on the policy reform in Vietnam recently. We have like many different laws to regulate water resources management. We have the law on hydraulic works in 2017. Have some regulation related to manage water inside the irrigation works, or the law on natural disaster prevention control, the law on planning, the newly updated the law on environmental protections in 2020, and some other very important laws that have been passed by the National Assembly last year in November is the law on water resources. So together with that, we have like different regulations, different plans. For the important one is the National Water Resources Master Plans. That's the first National Water Resources Master Plans developed in 2020. Together with that, I also can mention like last week, the government already approved implementing decree, the guiding implementation decrees of the new water law and its circulars. So all of those important documents, the strategy and plans is the guiding documents for all of the activities to enhance the water security of the country. Next, please. And you can see I can mention some sustainable development measures, as you can see here. Like firstly, as I mentioned, is improve the water resources management institutions, developing legal framework, law, strategy, plans, manage water at the basin scale through inclusive governance arrangement. So now Vietnam is developing, together with developing the national water resources plans, we also finishing up developing and finalizing the river basin water plans. So for each major river basin across Vietnam, and it's expected that by the end of this year, all of 16 major river basin, the government and then the National Assembly will the government will approve the river basin plans for all of river basin across Vietnam. And we will try to increase the value produced by water in agriculture and increase the water use efficiency. And now, as you know, like we're facing a lot of challenges related to degraded water resources and water pollution. So that the priorities will be given for water restorations, especially like now, MONRE, the Ministry of Natural Resources and Environment, is proposing to the governments of a program for restore the water in Bắc Hưng Hải irrigation system in the northern part of Vietnam to improve the water quality for the society, for the people. And we try to consider water resources as a type of goods and develop and scale up market-based financing and incentive. So in order to enhance the water security, we cannot only depend on the state budget because it's very limited. So we try to incorporate some articles and chapter related to promoting the PPP, the public-private investments and partnership, so that we can mobilize some budgets and financial investment from the private sectors for the water security as well. In some directions, the policy recently is firstly the law on water resources, just approved last year in November, and it will come into effective by in the first day of July this year. And the important documents I have to mention is the conclusion 36 of the Politburo on enhancing the water security. This is the key, very important, critical documents that reflect the directions of the government on enhancing the water security of the country. And we also, during the UN conference, UN Water Conference last year, we have the participations of the Deputy Prime Minister that gave a lot of commitment of the country on how to enhance the water security. And also we need to develop more investment in projects as well. So with the cooperations in the water sector between Vietnam and Italy, so currently MONRE and TWRM are developing the project of modernizing and upgrading and improving the monitoring system of meteorology and hydrological stations system in the Red Tai Binh River basins, and also AICS also providing some support in technical assistance in multi-reservoir operations and improving the forecasting, flood forecasting and drought forecasting for Vietnam as well. And then we're still working on that. So far we can say that the cooperations between the two countries very much in line with the Vietnamese government's priorities, and also in line with the strength from the experts from Italian side as well, including working together on the National Water Resources Database, building the decision supporting system, multi-reservoir, multi-monitorations, and based on real-time monitoring. And we also can focus on floods and drought and early warning forecasting and monitoring IWRM, and we want to enhance the capacity building and promote the knowledge exchange between experts of the two countries. The way forward, as we can see, we need to create an economic and political incentive for corporations, continue to build the following circulars, implementing decree, and improve the governance framework for water resources, as well as transboundary water cooperations, strengthening the scientific and information base for decision making, including the DSS I've mentioned with the supports from Italian side, and enhance the capacity to manage water resources sustainably and increase international and national funding for transboundary water cooperations, as well as for infrastructure in Vietnam as well. So thank you very much. So that's because the time is limited. So that's the short presentations on some of current context, some of the policy reform, important documents that is approved by the government, and some review on the cooperation between the country and the way forward. So thank you for listening, and thank you for organizing this workshop.
Yes, we have a very good view of the legal framework and its progress in the last years on water security. Now it's time for Daniele, who will give us a short presentation to talk about resources, at least for the northern area of Vietnam. A round of applause for Daniele, and then we can start.
Thanks a lot. And the presentation I'm going to give focus on how the agencies align in the effort to support the Vietnamese government in addressing water-related issues. And it will be split in two presentations, actually. One is conducted by me and the other one by my colleague, Zung. So the presentation of Zung is more focused on different level of water quality and the WASH approach to the water resource. And regarding the Italian support for the water issues and water challenges about the Vietnam government, we are supporting the Vietnamese government since the late 90s, and we are basically working as shown by this map in different areas of the country. We have seen just before from Tu Yan presentation how Vietnam is affected by various water issues, and it's important when we start to speak about the water resource management, it's important to address the water resource management challenges. And it's important, it's crucial to contextualize the country where we are and we are discussing. And for sure, we are not in a developing countries, but on the contrary, Vietnam aims to attain upper middle income status by 2030. So that means the key challenges in water management must consider the increase of water use conflict. So different water challenges needs to be analyzed with different perspectives. For example, regarding this is a list of water challenges. The water shortage, for example, needs to be analyzed in terms of scarcity, but due to the rising of demand, not only for domestic, but also, for example, for industrial and agricultural use. In these challenges, there is since several years a new scenario that is the climate change. The climate change poses significant challenges to the different water issues, and we have seen before from the presentation of Tu Yan that is affecting the climate change can affect the GDP for a small percentage, but in quantity, in amount. But we have to consider that in the next year it become even worse. For sure, if we don't act with mitigation measure, climate change could impose a substantial economic cost on Vietnam, as here reported. Therefore, the water distribution and the allocation of the water must take into account not only conflicts arising from its use, but also threats posed by extreme environmental conditions. And how does the Italian Cooperation Agency approach water management challenges in such diverse context? So in response to this heterogeneity, let's say, AICS emphasizes a water management approach focusing on improving efficiency, effectiveness, environmental sustainability in alignment with the Sustainable Development Goals, and furthermore, to ensure the overall effectiveness of these efforts, AICS support the strengthening of technical governance and institutional capacity in water resource management, and made this with the use of conventional and innovative tools. Innovative tools that has been applied, for example, in supporting water resource management. And a very important area is the Red Time B River Water Basin area, in which we are working, is a very important area for Vietnam because, for example, it contributes for the 16% of Vietnam's surface water. And within this basin, there are, for example, 4 large hydropower reservoirs and an irrigation system of nearly 1 million hectares. So basically, the area is characterized by conflicts amongst various productive sectors like energy, industry, agriculture, and these conflicts are increasing in parallel with the growing water demand. Additionally, there are economical damages resulting from alternating of floods and droughts due to the climate change. This is an example of a drought season in the Red River and drought action. For it's mandatory, it's very essential to work with an efficient water management system. And we are supporting the Vietnamese government exactly on this, specifically with the use of also innovative tools, as I told you, and for strategies of short, medium, long term. This is just an example of one of our projects in which we are supporting the Vietnamese government for the implementation of a multi-objective decision system that basically, and not go too much in depth on this structure, but it's just to understand, is the multi-object decision system consists, for example, in different components dedicated to water use planning and management. And specifically, is combining observation modules, so modules with the real-time monitoring system regarding the precipitation, regarding the water level or the water yield, as well as very innovative is the information regarding real-time information regarding the salinity. So basically to understand the saline intrusion in Red River Delta. Or this data populate another module that is the forecast module. And also this is very important because we can do through, or the government will do, the stakeholder will do a forecast about all this information collected that can be combined with the needs of the stakeholders. So, for example, the Central Committee for Flood and Storm Control, the Vietnam Electricity Management, so the Ministry of Agriculture, of Environment, etc. So basically, with the use of this system, with the government can reach possibility to have alternative options to how to solve and measure how to solve the conflict in water demand. So basically can maximize the hydropower generation while minimizing the flood level or the irrigation demand deficit and the salinity concentration in Delta River, etc., according to what-if scenarios. But why are important is result in the implementation of this type of tools in this proposal and project that we are supporting is basically because, for example, with the short-term strategy, we can work with the model of real time. So basically, we can better understand extreme flood events or extreme drought events and improve the predictive accuracy, so we can work with the early warning system. So in this case, is in the short term, is it possible to take action regarding how to solve the problem of this extreme event. At the same time, in mid and long term, for example, with the collection of a very long historical hydroclimatic set of data, it's possible also to set optimal operating policies, operating for multiple water reservoirs in the system. At the same time, to ensure a long-term strategy, it's important also to strengthen the technical and institutional capacity. And we are working also, we are supporting the government, providing the support to regulatory framework for water resource management by formulating, for example, recommendations and supporting, coordinating, involving institutions, civil society, and private sector too, for that are interested in improving regulation and governance in key of water resource management sector. And to complete and to achieve this outcome, Italian system practice has been sharing with adapting exactly the Italian system to the Vietnamese context, where it's possible. For example, this is what's happening with the Italian civil protection system. So with this initiative, AICS is supporting also the training for the technical, to consolidate technical capabilities of governance of water resource, and also through the master and doctoral courses offered to Vietnamese counterpart. We have several beneficiaries. I've already told before, some like MONRE, so the Ministry of Natural Resources and Environment, but also the Agriculture Ministry, and the Vietnamese students for sure, the primary stakeholders and vulnerable rural communities. And this Italian system involvement is knowledge transfer are basically at the moment for water management, for the water management resource, the Polytechnic University of Milan, University of Brescia, and Siemens Foundation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Diene, for your insight on the short and long terms to water security, and give us a very concrete example on how technology can address water management issues. So now I guess it's time for Zoom for his presentation on the collaboration between Italy and Vietnam in the water sector. Zoom is our institutional memory in the AICS Hanoi. Has been with us for many years. So I guess he's the right person to talk about our long friendship and collaboration with the government of Vietnam. A round of applause for Zoom, and then you can start.
Thank you, Luca. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for your attending our workshop today. As Mr. Daniele Pitali just introduced, the Eastern Development Corporation has comprehensively supported Vietnam in the water sector, from effectively managing water resources by government authority to addressing issues directly affecting people, such as providing clean water for daily use or tackling with environmental pollution from domestic wastewater. Now, I would like to present some information related to the support of the Eastern Development Corporation in supplying clean water and wastewater treatment in Vietnam. Actually, that supplying clean water has been extremely critical for Vietnam. According to World Bank data, in 2000, only about 52% of Vietnamese population has access to piped water, concentrated largely in urban areas with around 75% of urban residents, while in rural areas only 35%. The quality of the water often did not meet hygiene standards. This situation seriously impacts the people live, causing many different diseases. So, recognizing this issue, the Eastern Development Corporation has helped Vietnam improve the situation by upgrading and building 3 water supply systems in 3 cities and districts of Vietnam. And this system included facility for drawing raw water from rivers or from the groundwater source. To make the clean water by clean water treatment plant, some pumping station, and the pipeline to deliver the clean water to individual households. The treated water meets Vietnamese hygiene standard for the households use. As a result, we have Vietnam, the city and district to provide about 20,000 cubic meter per day of clean water, ensuring about from 90 up to 110 liters per person per day of clean water, meeting daily water needs for approximately 200,000 people in this area, which including many disadvantaged ethnic minority in the remote rural region. And along supporting Vietnam with clean water issue, the International Development Corporation has also helped Vietnam addressing challenges relating to drainage and domestic wastewater. Vietnam is influenced by tropical monsoon climate and annually induce about 7 to 12 tropical storms, causing widespread flooding. Meanwhile, the drainage infrastructure is still weak. In addition, Vietnam's most domestic wastewater is not properly treated before being discharged into the environment. In many urban areas, wastewater treatment systems are still lacking and weak, resulting in polluted living environment and negatively affecting the public health. Vietnam government has been implementing various measures to address flooding and wastewater pollution, like investing in drainage and wastewater treatment system, raising public awareness by educating people and informing about the importance of the protection of environment. So, along with this effort from the Vietnam government, Italy has been helping Vietnam to build 3 drainage and wastewater treatment system in 3 cities in central and southern of Vietnam. This system helped the city to reduce flooding caused by heavy rain and collect domestic wastewater from households, bring it to the centralized wastewater treatment plant. The total design of wastewater treatment plant capacity about 18,000 cubic meter per day, which can be expanded to double in the future. The treated water meets Vietnam standards for hygiene and can be reused for agriculture irrigation purposes. As a result, the system completely brought practical benefit, including reduced frequency and location of flooding point caused by storm. This particular, I think, that very important in the context of the climate change, where the extreme weather even are becoming more frequent. A specific example in Nui Thanh City, one of the city got our support. Previously, with the rainfall of 50 millimeter in 1 hour, there are dozens of flooding points throughout the city. But after having the drainage system have approval, with such rain, flooding no longer occur. Previously, household wastewater were directly discharged around house. This water polluted surrounding pond, lake, canal, and groundwater source. Now, the household wastewater is collected and treated to meet sanitary safety standards, being discharged into environment and reused for irrigation. The soil and the air environment in this city also much more improved. The quality of the resident has improved and reducing the risk of disaster. Moreover, this system, I think, that also contribute to the buildings to a circular economy that Vietnam is aiming for, by, as demonstrated by reusing the water, consuming less energy, and using environmental friendly solution in the long term. Finally, I would say that the support from Eastern Development Corporation in the water and environment sanitation sector has a long-lasting and sustainable positive impact. This demonstrated by helping people to access clean water, to reduce environment pollution and ensure the environment resilience in the future. This support has been highly appreciated by both local and the pupil local authority and the pupil. In fact, that in localities that have received our support, authorities consistently express desire for continuous similar support for their residents. Okay, I will end my presentation here. Thank you for your attention. If you have any question, please, I will try to respond. Thank you all. Goodbye.
A critical matter. So as said by the president of the Forum for Water is Politics, and it involves citations. I think the Prime Minister of the Republic of Indonesia, one of these, highlighted the importance of collaboration. And this morning, I guess we have a very good example of how collaboration between countries can enhance knowledge about particularly about the friendship between Italy and Vietnam and the work of our system. Lastly, I'm not sure it was mentioned this morning, but we just ended a very Vietnamese counterpart, General Statistics Office. This project was so successful that phase 2, which will see a quadrilateral collaboration between the 4 countries, so not only Vietnam and also Italy, but also Laos and Cambodia. So particularly on environment. As a final statement, I would like to say that water reuse in the future. So for renewable uses like agriculture, industry. So we have the capacity and the technology of for bringing back the wastewater circle and agriculture, for irrigation, for industry. It's cost efficiency, that will be more expensive than taking the wastewater upstream. So if some like a good example of water policy or intensive water security. So good example of actions for security government and
Hello. I cannot hear very well from Bali, but I guess like Mr. Luca is asking about the detailed plans, priorities of the government on water security. Yes. So because like the sound is pretty distorted. So, but I still, so should I answer? Should I share a little bit to answer the questions? So thank you very much. So with the efforts of the government to increase the water security, we can divide to structural and non-structural measures, solutions. And then with non-construction measures, we can talk about reform the water policy framework or developing the plans. All of the river basins in Vietnam will have their own river basin plans, water resources plans. And then also one of the plans from the government is to establish the river basin organizations. At least like at the end of this year or maybe next year, we are proposing to establish 5 river basin organizations across Vietnam. So that's an organization. That is an effort toward the integrated water resources management, like managing water at the river basin scale, not in the management like with the boundary of provinces, etc. So we plan to organize an RBO soon. The government will consider to establish the RBO, and also one of the new things in the law on water resources is like each year at the beginning of the year, the Ministry of Natural Resources and Environment will and then the government will publish the water scenario at the beginning of the year. So if its forecast is like we have adequate water. So all of the sector will do as regular as the demand. But however, in case of we have some forecasting like the status of water resources at the beginning of the year. If it's like lacking, we can see it's forecasting is lacking of water. So different water users, different water sector will need to develop their own plans in order to cope with the status of the water. Or in the drought scenario, what each organization, each ministry have to do. So that is the new thing in the next year the government will do, which is working with water scenario at the beginning of the year. And we will need to increase the monitoring system and building the national water resources database, as well as developing the decision supporting system based on real-time monitoring as well. So that is some of the efforts the government will be doing in order to enhance the water security of the country. Together with that, we also propose some structural measures. For example, like now Vietnam has more than 7,000 reservoirs, and so that's for different purposes. So we need to increase and maintain all of the reservoir well, and increase the water storage in some provinces and in some area, especially like occur the water shortage frequently. So to increase the storage, to increase the water use efficiency and effectively. So those efforts the government will focus more in the coming time. Thank you.
Jan, I think there's more, but the time unfortunately is over for us. So I would like to thank you all again.